Want to learn 6 simple steps to create a YouTube profile image that gets noticed from start to finish? Well, I'm going to talk about that in this video. Ciao, homie! Ciao, homie! I am my block's strongest man, and I help you create small goals that matter in whatever you do. On this channel, we exercise with everyday objects, talk bodybuilding and strength sports, and review my blog's best gadgets. If you're new here, consider subscribing and clicking the bell button for all notifications of my upcoming videos that release every other day at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And at any point during this video, check out links in the description below where I list out everything that I've discussed in this video and how to get merchandise that helps us spread this message of small goals matter together, and tips like TubeBuddy to help supercharge your own channel. So on to today's topic. So today I want to continue in my series on creating YouTube channel art, and today we're going to talk about creating your profile picture, which is this one right here on my channel. And we're going to create a profile picture for YouTube for free. Yes, for free in 6 easy steps. So let's have a look at how we do that. First of all, we want to find out what our dimensions should be for our profile pic. And so if you go to your YouTube channel customization options, you'll see under the branding tab, profile picture upload. Mine says change because I have one there already. Otherwise it would say upload or something of that nature. So it tells you the file should be no larger than 4 megabytes in size, and the dimensions should be at least 98 by 98 pixels. At least. But what is ideal? So I Googled that. YouTube channel profile picture dimensions. So you can go ahead and Google that, and you'll see that it tells you the ideal picture size is 800 by 800 pixels. So now our next task is to decide what piece of software we're going to use to actually create this. And so lots of YouTubers use the Adobe suite of tools for their YouTube needs. Those tools, as I understand it, have costs and sometimes substantial costs associated with them. And I, being a new YouTuber, and many of you being new YouTubers trying to get ahead and learn these skills cheaply, I think would appreciate the fact that I use a program called Inkscape, which is free. Yes, free. So I use pretty much all free tools right now to do my YouTube. I have several sales channels I'm working on. I'm trying to get monetized through the YouTube Partner AdSense program. I'm doing some affiliate marketing on products that I love and promote on my channel videos. And I'm doing branded merchandise as well. But all of those sales channels are still getting going. So until I have revenue coming in from them, I want to take advantage of getting the best bang for the buck, or in this case, getting the best bang for no bucks at all with free software that's still robust. So step 1, download Inkscape today. You'll be pleasantly surprised at its ease of use and how robust it is. So let's jump into Inkscape and see what it looks like. So I'm going to open up the application, and you'll see by default it's going to look like just a blank palette, like a blank document piece of paper. So here we go. And we want to make that document that we see in the center of the page the size that we looked up it should be. So the way that you do that is by going to the File menu, Document Properties, and then you get this pop-up with document properties where you can select standard sizes like US letter, US legal. US letter is a great size for t-shirts, so if you're going to be doing your branded merchandise on apparel, I've tested this out, and 8.5 by 11 comes out really nice on t-shirts. But in this particular case, we want to pick pixels. PX is pixels, and then we're going to set the width to be 800, and we're going to set the height to also be 800. And so now you'll see we have a perfect square. The other thing that is nice to do, just in case you want to make your logo for your profile pic a light color, is to set a background on your document. So I'll just play around with these colors a little bit so I get something other than a white background. And that way we can see a little better if our logo ends up being light. So now I'll go ahead and close both of those windows, and we can zoom in with the zoom tool down here to make the square kind of take up our whole working space so we can see it better. And what you want to do when coming up with an idea for what your logo or your profile pic for YouTube should be is not to try to draw from scratch. You want to try to find something online that is close to what you will need and use that as a template and modify from there. Not copy someone else's work, but use it as a template from which you can modify. So I'm going to jump back into Chrome, and let's say we want to have a brand about cats, and I want my logo to be a silhouette of this kind of cat, again modified a little bit. So I'll copy the image, we'll jump back into Inkscape, and I'll paste the image. And then what we want to do, you see these arrow handles all around the image. You want to grab those and resize it so it fits in your document area. And so what I'll do is I want to hold down the Control key and drag it like that. And by holding down the Control key as I drag, it resizes proportionally so that the cat isn't skewed like really tall and wide or really short and narrow. It rescales according to the same proportions it originally had. So now that we have our cat properly sized and positioned, we go to our next step. And the next step is the actual drawing. So lots of folks on YouTube do tutorials like this and are big proponents of the Bezier tool, which is this one. And it's fine. It's not that hard to learn, but there are a few steps and you need practice to learn how to use it. It doesn't come naturally. What it allows you to do is to draw a line, for example, from here down to the bottom of the cheek, and then pull out the middle so it makes a perfect curve around the two areas that you've connected, and then you make a series of lines in that way and keep pulling them until you have perfect curves. Now, I find that to be more difficult than the freehand drawing tool, which just comes naturally to all of us. We all know how to draw a line. We don't all know how to use a Bezier tool. Again, it's not that hard to learn when you practice, but why, learn a new skill at all when there isn't value to be provided from it, right? Where it isn't going to give you something you can't do in a way that you already know how to do. And so what I'll do is I'll zoom this way in so that we're working with a particular area only. And now that I have my freehand drawing tool selected, I'm going to go ahead and trace the cat, right? And maybe my cat gets a really flat head, and maybe my cat gets squared off ears. Like I said, make it uniquely your own and change it from what the template has a bit, and then we can trace it, and we have our line. So the one thing you'll notice is you may have seen as I was drawing, my line was a bit jagged because I'm dragging a trackpad on my laptop and I don't draw perfectly. So why is it that the line is smoothed out and looks pretty good? Well, that is because you can smooth things out in Inkscape without the Bezier tool. There's this smoothing option when you're freehand drawing. And so let's say I don't like exactly how it's smoothed. I can play with the settings and make it a little less smooth and so forth, between 0 and 100, so I believe it's like a percentile, until I feel like it's kind of there. I think I like that. I like the big squared off ear, and then it's nice and tight around the cheeks, so we'll go with that. Then when you continue your line, you want to put your pencil in the little box where your other line ended off so you can connect it, right? So we're going to go around this ear, square that one off a bit too, and then just trace all the way down the cat and around the cat. And we're going to create a silhouette as our profile pic this time for our example. So we'll scroll down. I'll pick up where I left off. Again, trace all the way down the cat and around. Back up. Make the cat a little wider on the bottom. And now, if we zoom back down, we'll see we have a perfect outline of our cat's head with the modifications that we made. And if I were making this my actual profile pic, I might make different shaped eyes, or a different shaped nose, or a different expression on the cat, or something like that. But I'm just going to do a silhouette for the purpose of this tutorial, and then we'll add text around it and make it like really uniquely ours and not a copy, like something that you're actually putting a lot of work into making different from what was online. So now we have a cat and we have a traced line around the cat. So what next? Well, you'll notice at the bottom of Inkscape, it tells you that you're on layer 1. So what could we accomplish if we add layers? So let's go ahead and go to the layer menu and add a layer. And so now we can add layer 2. And so now that we have 2 layers, we can differentiate by putting the cat on one layer and the tracing on another layer. So I'll go ahead and click the cat, and you see when I click the cat, it thinks the cat is layer 1 because that's where we began. And now I can move the cat to layer 2. And so I'll say move. And now we're on layer 2 where we see the cat and not the drawing. And then we can go back to our layer menu, and there is a delete current layer option. So it will delete the layer that is listed on the bottom of the page, layer 2. So I delete that, the original cat goes away, I'm left with my drawing. So now we can, since we've highlighted the select tool, we can go ahead and select the line. And once we've done that, we can fill. I can select black, for example, and now I have a filled in kind of cartoonish looking silhouette, right? I would play with this in the real world to make it look nicer, but that's how you end up with your version using a template and a finished product that looks nothing like the original, so you're not copying it. Now, as you noticed, when I clicked the fill tool, it knew the area I wanted to fill in, and that's because as I drew multiple lines around the cat, I began the subsequent lines by starting on the little box where the first line left off, and then that's what allowed me to make a closed-in area so that it would know to fill in that area. So what else can we do with this? Well, I'll click my selector tool. My silhouette is selected. And if we come over to the right, there's a fill and stroke menu. And so fill is the black filling, and stroke is literally the stroke of the paintbrush. So you can have no stroke, or you can have a flat colored stroke, or different gradients and so forth. So let's do this. Let's click stroke style first and make the line thicker so I can see it better. Okay, not that thick. Let's make it, let's say 10, right? Around 10 millimeters thick so we can really see it well. And then what we can do is change the color by going back to stroke paint and play around with these values in the RGB, or you have hex, you know, different color schemes. You have a color wheel, you have all different ways that you can do it, but I'll just play around with the RGB a little bit so you can sort of see the differences that it makes. So I'll add a little bit of red to my line, I'll add a little bit of green to my line, and then I'll add a lot of blue to my line. And so now we can do an outline like that, and so that looks really thick. So let's go back and reduce the thickness a bit, and something like that could be the beginnings of a pretty cool profile pic or branding logo. So what next? What else can we do? Well, something like, again, it wouldn't be this abstract in your example, but, you know, it would be something more refined. Like if we go look at mine again, I worked to get it to be a man holding a chair. So I did the same techniques that I'm showing you, but just kind of really refined the shapes to get what I wanted. And then if you want to then take something like this and use it in your channel banner, so you see in my channel banner I start adding text underneath it. It's the same image, so I just reuse the same image again. You create it one time and then you add text underneath and just save it as another version. So you want to keep that in mind as you're building your art for your YouTube channel and your brand in general. Take the baseline image that you know will be everywhere and build on that so you don't have to keep recreating things over and over again. And so how do I add text here? Well, they have a text tool in Inkscape. It's this capital A, and I can just make a box where I want my text to be, and then I can pick my font. So let's pick, I don't know, AquaScript, and we'll start typing. So it would be, I don't know, Fancy Cat Productions. How about that? Fancy Cat Productions. And then what we can do is you get the option in Inkscape to pick your point size on your font here. But my preferred way to do it is I click on the select tool, and then I can grab it and just, you know, at will make it as large as I want to. I don't have to try 40 points and try 50 and see what's good, you know, so that's a great way to do it. So you can do something like that. And then if you end up doing, you know, merchandise for your brand and you want, for example, something like this, for example, I'll show you my Spreadshirt shop where my designs, if we go to down here, you'll see I have my brand name on top and then my my mantra or my catchphrase on the bottom. And so I can show you a little larger here if we go to all designs on my Spreadshirt shop. So here you can see it better. And of course I've branched out lately, so I have my block strongest man, my block strongest woman, my block strongest baby, and so forth. So I have apparel for all this stuff now. And same kind of idea on each one, right? Like my block strongest something goes on top, and then the quote, the small goals matter, goes on the bottom. And so again, building upon what I originally created just for a profile pic. So this piece in the middle with the man holding up the chair was my original YouTube profile pic. I added the small goals matter on the bottom and put it in my channel banner. I added the brand name on top and made merchandise out of it. So again, I only had to do the hard work one time, and then the other two efforts were fairly easy to add on, right? So in this particular case, you might want kind of your brand name on top, Fancy Cat Productions, and then you can make, you know, more text on the bottom with, you know, all cats are cool, something like that. And another thing to keep in mind here is you want to keep the font fairly legible. I'm showing you examples of really fancy fonts, but for example, if we were to do, I like Papyrus for this process, and I used it on my baby apparel. And so again, if we click on our selector tool there and drag this to be better or to be bigger, you can do something like that. And again, this could be a different font that isn't this fancy. So if we were to highlight that, and then you can make that one Papyrus as well by selecting a different font. And then click the selector tool, pull it over so it's within your document size. And then I'll just shrink down a little bit. So there you go. Right? And of course, there's a couple of different ways to change the background color as well. You'll notice with mine, if we go back to my YouTube channel, I did a white background because I liked that clean black and white type of appearance. But if you wanted a background color, you could do what I did here, which was change the whole document background, because it's only going to look at what's within this square anyway. Those are the dimensions you said you wanted at the beginning. Or you could draw a square over your area and then have control over both the outline and the filling of it as well. So if you were to draw a square, for example, you could, well, let's do this first. Let's add a layer 3. Or we can add a layer 2. And then we have our writing and our cat on layer 1. So if you might recall at the beginning of this exercise, we already had a layer 2, and that's kind of why I'm pausing right now, but we deleted it. That's what was the original image from the internet. So that's why it's now suggesting that the next layer is 2. And we can draw our square now on layer 2, like that. Right? And then you'll notice this square has rounded corners, and that's because it remembers in Inkscape that that's what I did on my thumbnails, but you can get rid of those if you wanted. So these circles here, you just grab them, pull them up to the corner like that, and then pull this one on top of that circle, and now you have squared off corners like normal. So I'll go ahead and click off of that so you can see it, and now you have a square with a different background color from the page and a different line. And again, how do you work with those? Fill and stroke. So if I were to change this stroke to, you know, something else, it would change that, and then on the fill as well. So that's how you control those things. The opacity, of course, is not at 100%, so you see, like, I can make it way darker or not as dark, more see-through. But that's another way to control the background color. So hopefully you found that helpful. Again, your steps in summary are: figure out from YouTube what the minimum dimensions are and maximum file size for your profile pic. Go do a Google search to see what the actual ideal dimensions are, not the minimum, so you can make it look nice and crisp. Download Inkscape today as the best free drawing software that I know of. I tried GIMP, which is also really acclaimed by a lot of people, and I personally just couldn't figure out how to even get started with it. It might be similar to Inkscape, but for me, I just couldn't grasp it. Get a template online of some sort of image that is similar to what you'd like to take as a baseline to modify, and then jump into Inkscape, paste in your template, freehand draw over it, use as much smoothing as you need to make your lines smooth, delete the layer with the template, and make your background what you want. So the final steps: 1. As always, when working in Inkscape, save as your project file, and that will be an SVG file. You see I've created lots of stuff in Inkscape. And once you've done that, that's not your image yet, it's the project file. So, File, Export PNG Image, and you'll see lots of export properties here. All you need to do is tell it where to put your exported file, what you want to name it, and click the export button, and you will get PNG files. So, if I go to one of my folders here, like, for example, my thumbnails folder, you'll see lots of PNG files. Here is an example of a thumbnail that I did in Inkscape. And if you like this thumbnail, I mean, not to sound pompous, but I certainly do. They're leaps and bounds better than my old thumbnails were. I used to do thumbnails where I would have screenshots from my videos, and they were blurry or far away or didn't tell the story at all about what was happening, and I recently took about 30 or 40 hours to redo all the thumbnails on all of my videos to make them consistent and clear and brightly colored and appealing and telling you exactly what's going on, and this is the result. So if you like what you see here, go check out my video about how to make the perfect thumbnail that grabs viewers' attention, and I will show you exactly how I made this as well. So that's the end of the story for creating your profile pic for YouTube. Thanks again for joining me, and we'll talk to you again next time. So if you like this video and want to learn more about any of the products I described during this video, make sure to check out the links in the description below. So thanks again for joining my Block's Strongest Man. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing using that button right there. And also, please consider watching more videos like this that I'm sure you will love as well. You should see them blooping up right over there. The one up here is the one YouTube thinks that you'll like the best, and the one over here is the one that I think that you will like the best. And of course, I appreciate it all. Share this with everybody you know. And of course, as always, until next time, ciao, homie.